warm welcome to one and all to another episode of Success Tales. Today, we have the honor of having a special guest with us who is none other than the founder and CEO of Clover Organic Private Limited, Mr. Sanjay Agarwal. Mr. Sanjay is an entrepreneur, innovator, and a change maker. He has been invited to numerous national and international platforms by government, semi government, and private sectors for delivering talks and implementing the sustainable farming solutions, wastewater treatment solutions, and many more. Welcome, Mr. Sanjay, to our platform.
Thank you very much, Sugandha, and your team for inviting me here, giving me this opportunity to talk to people who I can try and help if possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking out time for our viewers. So, viewers, Clover Organic Private Limited was founded in 2008 and has worked extensively in the field of organic agriculture, aquaculture, animal husbandry, wastewater treatment, and solid waste management. Clover Organics delivers sustainable farming solutions. So, sir, you're working in sustainable farming and waste treatment area. Our viewers would like to know more about what is Clover Organics all about.
Sugandha, to be very frank, it is a place of madness to start to tell you. I mean, it's not it's a place where I think anybody who's part of our team really unleashes his dreams or asks for the moon, asks for the impossible. All sorts of experiments keep getting conducted, be it technical R&D in our R&D lab, or be it, marketing or sales discoveries that we are trying to do. So, it's a place that we are doing all kinds of interesting things. So Clover is basically an organization. We founded in 2008. And it was earlier a product company. Basically, we were into microbes, bacteria, if that is what people will understand. And to that extent, it's a biotech company. So we were a product company to start with, for many, many years, where we were packaging these probiotics. We were making these probiotics for different verticals that you mentioned. And so we used to make that and sell to the different consumers. And we had a diverse set of customers who used to buy from us. But slowly, Sugandha, what we realized was that, pouring a bottle of product into a lake or into a field is not going to create the magic that people want to see. So last couple of years, in fact, I would say 4 to 5 years, we did a complete pivot where we are saying now that we are not a product company, but we are a solution-based company. And by solution, what we are talking about, which we'll obviously elaborate later on while we are talking more into the other topics, is that we are taking custody of the entire value chain, and doing things with that. We will talk. I'll talk about that more in detail. Sufficient to say that right now we are doing organic farming in about 50,000 acres in different states. We are working with about 15,000 farmers. In agriculture, around 800 odd aquaculture farmers. We are working with great organizations like Procter & Gamble, ITC, Ion Exchange on wastewater treatment. We have cleaned up a couple of lakes, drains, and we are trying to help others to do the same, where we can give training programs and things like that. Along with that, we are also trying to sell the produce of the farmers, which totals about 50 to 60,000 metric tons as of now. So that's where Clover is at this stage of the game.
Right, sir. You have had an illustrious career with Tega India Limited, Modern Fuel Injectors Private Limited, Maple Oak Tech India Limited. What was the motivation behind choosing entrepreneurship altogether?
Well, I don't know how to be politically correct over there. So I guess I'm a kind of a person who hates taking orders. I like to be independent. I like to, but I think I have too many passions in me, really, Sugandha, to be very frank with you. And, I want to unleash those passions. And I don't think those passions can be realized if I was working for someone. I even tried to, how should I say, worked with someone a couple of years, but didn't really work because there was a clash of ideas happening all the time. So that's why I decided to go back to entrepreneurship. And also, I think it's like a roller coaster ride all the time, and that's something which I thrive on. I think it's very personal, I guess.
Wonderful, sir. Every startup faces a lot of hurdles during the initial, or you can say the infantile phase of its journey. I'm sure you and your team must have also faced your share of challenges as well. So please tell us something about your initial struggles, sir.
Well, there were a lot of challenges that are typical with, I think, every startup that happens. And so one is that, you have lofty ideals and passions and people don't share that. Like, for example, they could not believe that a set of microbes could actually do the magic for them because microbes were and still are actually considered evil. They are the ones who are causing the pandemic. They are the ones who's, causing every evil on this planet, not realizing that we owe our very existence to these microbes. The food we eat, the air we breathe, etc., etc. The garbage which is disposed of and consumed by these magnificent creatures. So that was one. Second was that because people didn't believe in what I was trying to sell, I had no market. I never had any market, because probiotics, even before, like you mentioned, Maple, this was in the year 99, and that's where the whole journey started. And so we never had really market. We had to really educate people to understand where we were coming from, right? And along with that, there were always paucity of funds. Okay, because one about whatever savings and loans one could get, one would go with that. Another challenge was getting good talent. So if people didn't believe in you, why would they join you? Right? And team makes all the difference. So, so these were some of the challenges that we faced. Of course, many others, but these are some of the main ones.
Right, sir. So besides Dehradun, which states are you currently operating in, sir?
So besides Uttarakhand, actually we are present in 19 out of the 28 states in India. And we are doing something or the other all the time. Some states we are doing a lot of work, some not so much. Like for instance, on coming Sunday, I'm going off to Chhattisgarh for the first time and trying to work with the rural development department there and, making a mark on organics. So that's our spread right now in India.
Right, sir. Yeah. You have set up approximately 300 bio villages across Garhwal division. That's an amazing number. So would you like to tell us something about the bio villages initiative, sir?
Sugandha, when we started that was in the year 2000, if I'm not mistaken. That time, we had very, very high energy levels and there was, nothing that, there was very, very low knowledge levels at the same time. Right. We didn't know what we were doing. It was just passion driven. Right. So we tried to create these bio villages. I think failed in many of them also. But there was a lot of learning that happened as a result of all that. So one big success that I could definitely share with you is that we managed to convey the message that composting is very, very important and it has to be done scientifically for the yields to go up. And along with that, it could also be an income generation for many of these people. And in the mountains, if you've been there, many people survive on barter trade. So like compost was actually exchanged for milk, for food, or, all those things, which was an interesting thing for us.
Right, sir.
So that's the extent right now. But yeah, now we're giving, our concept now, villages is turned to now blocks and districts where we are converting to organic.
Great, sir. So, giving back to the community is very, very essential. So what are the different CSR initiatives taken by Clover Organics at the moment, sir?
Well, basically, Okay, so number one, we're not supposed to be in that CSR bracket now, legally speaking, but we always felt that we should. So what we've done is that, for instance, we opened these shops, farmer market shops in Mizoram, where we are paying for the shops, we have paid for renovating them, etc., and everything. And the farmers just come and sell their produce there. So the idea being that the farmers realize the retail rate of the produce or the efforts as compared to the middleman taking away the major share of the, the revenue. So that's one initiative we've done. Then we've also created these, like I said, composting units in different parts of the country, where again the progressive farmers are making the compost, and we are doing 100% buyback.
Okay, sir.
So we help them with the technology, we handhold them, all those things we do at our cost.
Commendable, sir. So as you said that you are into organic production, organic certification, post-harvest management, procurement, aggregation, processing, marketing of final produce, and creating and mentoring entrepreneurs across the value chain as well. I would like to emphasize on, I would like to ask you especially on how does Clover enable creating entrepreneurs and mentoring them across the value chain, sir?
So Sugandha, I think first thing that one has to realize is that everybody has limitations. So one doesn't, at least I'm very clear in my mind that I don't want Clover to be everywhere, and we need to grow through partnerships.
Right.
Okay. And if you look at the agri-business value chain, there can be millions of opportunities, for every activity. There's an ocean out there. So for every activity, if we can create an entrepreneur, or let's say, like startups, like for example, the farmer producing organization that we are working with. So right now, like I told you in the beginning, that we are actually mentoring around 34 of these farmer producing organizations. They're like typical startups that one has in agriculture space. So what we do is that we measure the potential of an area where, a startup is needed. Like there must be a gap somewhere, there must be a need somewhere. That is very important. And it needs to be a commercial need. It should not be a, how should I say, emotional or a government-driven need. It needs to be something which can sustain on its own legs.
Right, sir.
So based on that, we create these, detailed project reports. We do complete handholding of these people who are there. And we ensure that whatever support they need, like, the branding, the marketing, in fact, we've bought buyers across the table to, buy from these farmer producing organizations directly without us coming and getting any commercial advantage. So once they taste success, I guess it's acts like a driver, and then these people are able to swim on their own slowly.
Right, sir. Interesting, sir. So, as we have read, and as your company, you have worked extensively in the field of aquaculture as well. Many of us do not know what is aquaculture all about. Can you throw some light on this, sir?
Interesting that you say that, because I think people know about fish and prawns and things like that, right? So aquaculture basically means, in very layman terms, basically is where you are actually growing the food yourself instead of taking it from nature. So it rules out actually going into the high seas and netting all the fish that you want. Instead, you grow them in ponds or of different types. There are many multiple technologies out there now. So basically, we are mentoring or helping these farmers. We are right now present in Andhra Pradesh.
Okay.
And we are mentoring these farmers how to increase the yield and the quality at this stage. And we are giving them our state-of-the-art probiotic products. Like we have done intensive R&D of many years to come up with these products, and they use them and get tremendous success. Like for instance, if you go around even in Dehradun, for instance, or any other city, that is ponds which are very dirty, algae formation and things like that. So we have a product called EcoPond. So if you put it in a pond and continuous application, you'll be able to see the bottom of the pond in just a few weeks. Because the microbes actually eat into all the muck, and they create that quality. So that's where we are. But then in the going time, what we have also planned is that we plan to market the produce of the farmers also, the aquaculture farmers as well. Like here also, the aquaculture department is talking to us for trout for marketing and things like that. It's very interesting. Yeah. So that way.
Great, sir. Great. And how about Clover Organics' initiative in the domain of animal husbandry?
Well, see, right now, initially we had given a lot of thrust to that in terms of, being in basically two sectors, that is poultry and piggery. Okay. But right now we are not really doing too much out there. Okay. Because I think we have a plate literally overflowing because of different projects and responsibilities that are there. So right now we are not really doing too much in this sector.
Right, sir.
We've taken a stand on that next 3 years we are not going to touch it because there are too many things happening. Yeah, so that's right.
Great, sir. I was also reading about the kind of initiatives you have taken in the field of wastewater treatment and solid waste management. I request you to share about your initiatives in this particular area with our viewers, sir.
So, what we do is that we, number one, help the industries to, number one, ensure that the effluent that they are discharging, meets the pollution control board norms and also does not pollute the environment, in any way. Many people, they actually discharge this effluent because they don't understand how to really treat it, because it is challenging at times. Like distillery waste, for example, is extremely challenging, which is very, very high in pollution. So there are different innovative ways that we do that mechanically. Along with that, we use our microbes to actually help, because the microbes actually go into the plant that we are looking into. And they eat into the suspended solids or the other kinds of solids which are there. Okay. So what happens as a result of that, when the water is getting cleaned with the action of the microbes, the oxygen levels or the dissolved oxygen levels in the water, they go on rising. Just to elaborate a little bit more on that, because I'm sure your readers, I don't know whether they'll understand this little technical term, but let me explain. So let's say you take a bucket of water, pure water, and you put a leaf in it or something in that. After a few days, you'll find that the leaf has vanished. It's kind of got dissolved in the water and the water has become dirty. So what disintegrates the leaf in the water is basically the oxygen in the water, the dissolved oxygen in the water. Right? And so that dissolved oxygen levels have to be maintained. So our microbes, because they eat into the muck, which is there in the pond or the plant, so they ensure that. So because I don't know if you've seen any plant like that, they have these big aerators to generate, to increase the oxygen levels in these plants. And with the bacterial action, they don't have to put on these aerators anymore, or maybe use them very less. So on one hand, they're able to meet the pollution control board norms. On the other hand, they save on energy. Right. So there are two different, benefits that they get. Along with that, that's one part that we do. Right. Like I mentioned to you that we are doing lakes, large water bodies, right? And also drains. So I don't know if you or your people know about new science, I would say, 25 years old only. It's called biomimicry. So this science basically talks about, mimicking design and process ideas from nature.
Okay.
And they have a biomimicry institute in the US, in Arkansas, to be exact. And it's not a fairy tale, let me tell you that. Like for instance, most of the windmills today, globally, the rotors of the windmills are designed around the wings of the dragonfly. so that even in zero wind velocity, they move. Then the
Okay.
bullet train in Japan,
Mhm.
for example, was the front part of it. It was designed around the shape of the kingfisher bird.
Hmm.
So if you notice a kingfisher bird, it enters the water, catches the fish, and flies out without even creating a ripple. So when they did that to the train, there was a 25% increase in velocity and 15% saving in fuels. So there are millions of examples. I mean, if you go to TED.com and type in biomimicry, I did that about 8 years ago, and I was totally transformed by this lady called Janine Benyus. And it's amazing, So we use a lot of biomimicry in all our work. Like for drains and things, what we are doing is we are mimicking the way rivers actually clean themselves. So if you put, let's say, beyond Rishikesh, a little bit of pollution into the river, and you see it, and by the time it reaches Haridwar, it's not there anymore. So our team actually went and studied, how does the river clean itself? Which can be a different topic altogether. It'll take about a couple of hours to tell you. So I will not share that right now.
No, it's so exciting listening to you and the Clover Organics initiatives. It's definitely, and especially biomimicry. I'm sure not many of our viewers are well versed with this subject as well. So it's very, very interesting, sir. Very, very nice.
Thank you.
So do you have a dedicated R&D lab, or you have collaborated with other with universities, or like how does your R&D team operate in Dehradun?
What we do is that our team of researchers, they actually go into the fields and ponds wherever we are working. Okay. And they actually go to understand what are the pain points of the farmers or whoever we are working with. And then they try to find out what are the different solutions that one can actually do. So that would mean, like, for instance, if you go for aquaculture, they will actually dive into the aquaculture pond and find out, okay, why is the sludge not reducing, for instance, in a particular pond? They will take sludge samples, water samples, the kind of feed that they are giving, study that, and come up with some innovative products for that. So we do that. And then, we also in agriculture, similar things that we do. And we try to bring in as much of innovation that we can do. So like I told you in the beginning, it's a bit of a madness, that we do in Clover. And I'm extremely proud to say that, actually. One idea somebody gave, and we are trying to work on it, is that, the plants that grow in deserts, the cacti, for instance.
Right.
So they actually have, it's called mycorrhiza, basically. It's a kind of a microbe. It's a kind of a, so it actually goes down deep into the desert, maybe around 250, 300 feet. And it takes in the water that the cacti needs. Okay. Now imagine that if that mycorrhiza could be grown in a laboratory, and we could give it to the farmers of Uttarakhand, for instance, where there is no water.
Right.
So, those kind of innovations is what we work with.
Yes, sir.
Just giving an example. Yeah.
Right, sir. So are you willing to collaborate with the universities? Because I, being an academician myself, I am so, I must say, I'm so inspired by the work that your company is doing, your team is doing. Are you also willing to collaborate with the universities, wherein even the students of the universities can have a chance to work with you and gain knowledge as well?
I would be delighted to do that. We are doing it with a couple of universities as it is. We have a full, R&D lab here in our factory in Selakui, which is near your Petroleum Institute only, I guess. And yes, and I think that the young generation today are probably 1,000 times more advanced than what I was when I was their age. Because access to so much of information and so much of technology, I guess, has made them more advanced. The process of evolution carries on, I guess. And, so I would welcome any kind of students, coming in, because I think they'll come up with some fantastic innovations.
Right, sir. Right. So, Mr. Sanjay, the scale at which your team is working extensively is definitely not possible without a good leadership and a good team. So, what, according to you, are some distinctive qualities of a leader who leads an organization or a venture?
I think the first thing that any leader should look at is how soon can he be replaced by someone else. And in that, the first thing that I am trying to do all the time is to create a team, which is, given complete freedom and authority to unleash their passions and drive whatever they wish to. So that's, I think, very, very important. So I think the first thing that a leader should do is that be able to have that, how should I say, skill set to bring out the best in everyone, whoever he touches, and keep that team together, so that, because at the end of it, team is the organization.
Yes, sir.
Without team, I mean, he's a nobody.
Yes, sir.
So that's the way, I mean, that's the one thing that I think that's the only that really matters. So I would just do that.
Right, sir. As we all know, you have been invited to speak on organic farming initiatives in India by EMRO in Japan. You have been invited by the Malaysian government. You were also invited by the International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, Nepal, to implement the Clover technologies for all the Hind Kush countries. Sir, what is your success mantra?
I really don't know. I never thought about it. But I think basically it is that, number one, if you are passionate about something, follow it up. Be whatever, I mean, I don't care whatever challenges come my way, and there are going to always be challenges. I think it's God's way of testing your resolve to want to create something. It's just a test. And so one is believe in yourself, certainly, and one, I think others see that passion and the resolve that you have, and I think they get they also want to be part of that. And then everything takes a natural extension to that. Suddenly there's money to be invested. Suddenly there are opportunities which come up in the market. It all falls in place on its own.
Right, sir. Any tips for the startup enthusiasts?
Well, there are many actually, but I would say number one will be never say die. You will face issues, challenges in every nick and corner, especially during the early days. And you should never, ever give in, to any kind of failures that you face. There's always a solution waiting for you. You need to have that resolve. Tomorrow is a better day. Everything has an end to it. Every night has to lead into a new morning. So just be there and stay invested in your passion. I think you'll definitely 100% get success. There's no two way about it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, Mr. Sanjay, for taking out time from your super busy schedule for being with us and sharing your story with our viewers. It was a pleasure having you with us today, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much, Sugandha, for having me. And I hope that all your readers are able to benefit from this little interaction we had.
Definitely, sir. Thank you once again, sir. Thank you.